Hello and welcome to another episode of Fundy Tidings. I'm your host Jay Remer, and with me today are two ladies from the Passamaquoddy Children's Center. We've got Courtney James, who is the director, and Ellen Fanning, who is the chair of the board. Welcome, ladies, to the show.
Thank you. Hi, thanks.
I'm so excited that you're here today because early childhood education is so important. And as luck would have it, this happens to be New Brunswick's week to celebrate early childhood educators.
Right.
So the timing couldn't be better.
You're right.
So tell me a little bit about how you, Courtney, came to become an early childhood educator. What was the stimulus there?
Well, I started out in 2009 just as the cook. Cooked there for probably 10 years, but helped out with office duties and just made my way up into being asked to take the position.
So it just was it felt right to you.
Yeah.
And what about early childhood education, do you think is the most important thing? Because you've come on the board, and so it must have a sweet spot in your heart.
Yeah, so I think it's really important to have a spot for our children as a working parent, to have a spot for our children to go throughout the day so that we can carry on with our careers, and they can be cared for and just in that safe, loving environment where their needs are being met and nurtured. And so I think it's really important that we have a group of people who have dedicated their time and energy into making sure that the care and compassion that we can't give for our little ones when we're at work is being given to them by somebody else. So I think that's really important.
It's a huge responsibility that parents put on you to care for their children during the day instead of them. Like, you're kind of the nanny.
And children from all walks of life, and our role is just to have them come in and feel comfortable and be able to get them through whatever they're coping with, and even if it's just mom leaving for the day.
So I remember when I went to the equivalent of the child care center as a kid, it was just, this is what you did. You know,
Yeah.
You walked up the stairs, you went in, you did your finger painting, or you ate your milk and cookies, and you listened
Right.
to a story. What is a typical day at your center? What does that look like from a child's point of view?
Well, we do all those things. We like to allow large slots of time for children to have like an uninterrupted play, so that they have the opportunity to build relationships with their peers and kind of get into a imagination world where they are using their brains and thinking and problem solving. We also spend a lot of time outside. We love outside and love our community, so it's nice to have the opportunity to get out and have the children experience, you know, the town that they live in, because it kind of gives them a sense of place, right? They belong.
We've all been children, and what I'm wondering is, do you notice, because I never was a teacher, I never taught in schools. I've taught lots of things, but not in schools, especially not kids. And I know how important it is, because when people get older and they come to me for advice, it's like, well, why didn't you learn this when you were in kindergarten? And I remember I believe it was Roger Fulgham wrote that book, Everything You Needed to Learn, I learned in kindergarten. So those kinds of skills are important. And how do you find that you teaching those is there a planned curriculum? Or do you just wing it, or
No,
how does it work?
So New Brunswick has a New Brunswick curriculum framework that all early childhood educators follow. And it's just basically built up of several support documents that will touch on kind of all the things that children will go through or experience. So we follow that, and it's largely play-based. So for example, instead of when they're going to school, they're learning to write on paper, we're going to teach them different ways to learn their letters in a more fun, play-based way. So like a tray of sand, we could trace letters and stuff like that. And yeah.
You know, it's amazing. I don't know whether you learned how to write letters when you were in kindergarten, but I definitely didn't. It was not until I got to the first grade and there were all those letters lined up, capital letters and little letters, and that's when I learned my ABCs. And I know that somewhere along the line, somebody figured out that it could be done earlier and more easily for the kid. So I'm just curious as to you know, the kinds of things that you actually encourage kids to do in school, because people like me, a couple of generations older, have no idea what it's like to go to kindergarten today.
Right.
And we're often asked.
I didn't even go to kindergarten.
Yeah.
So
You fill a void for families that is probably bigger than you realize.
Yeah.
And is there, so what kinds of things have you found that children learn really quickly through the play process?
I think what I would say, they learn how to be around each other, and they learn what's kind of socially acceptable. And that's kind of where we want to focus, is how they can get through those tough situations. So fighting with somebody, or someone takes your toy. Even though they're young, we're kind of preparing them for how they want to respond in the future, like in school and as adults.
And how do you do that? Because I'd like to know. I'd like to know the techniques myself.
We just walk them through the conversation. You know, if you didn't like so and so taking your toy, tell them that, and tell them how you want you to treat her or him.
I recently met with a colleague of mine in New York, and he was explaining to me about the bullying that would go on, you know, in the second grade by girls against boys, kind of a thing. Is there, how do you deal with bullying at an early age? Because it is a thing in, you know, we have to deal with it in real life, you know, as adults.
Right.
And when people go into business, and when people need to form relationships, whether it's with strangers or whether it's strengthening relationships within a family that may not be, you know, what we call functional. You know, I mean, I didn't come from a functional family because there were a lot of outside influences that just, they color the picture. So how do you deal with such a broad variety of backgrounds in a way that is fair and level and, you know?
So we don't really see it as bullying. It's more of the child is communicating something, and we have to figure out what that is and how we can help that way. There are a lot of supports for ECEs. We have an inclusion support worker that we can call on at any time, and they're through the district. So if we have struggles and behaviors that we can't manage, they will come in and help us and give us tools and whatever we need to get through that.
And when when kids leave your care and they go into the elementary school, do you feel that they are well prepared for dealing with their peers and the workload?
I think it gets better and better the farther we go. 'Cause from when I started in 2009 to now, I feel like it's we've kind of had a whole switch on how educators kind of, I can't really explain it. It's just their brains kind of switched, and we're kind of really focusing on well-being is at the center point. And I was even a part of a project, the Bridging Project, where I would visit kindergarten classes, and the kindergarten teachers would come and visit our center to kind of help bridge the transition.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
So we spent some time together and just kind of communicated, you know, this is what we're doing, this is what they're doing, and we're going to just kind of work together to make it a smooth transition.
Does most of the funding for your school come from the government? Do you get private donations?
Occasionally.
We have before, yeah.
Is that something that would be helpful?
Always.
Always.
Yes.
So what are some of the biggest challenges at the center as far as organizational challenges? You have a full, you're fully attended, and you have proper amount of staff?
Yep.
So I'm sure that there are challenges because I haven't run across an organization yet that isn't riddled with them. And what are yours that you'd like to share?
I would say cost of food is large right now. I mean, it's gotten a little out of hand,
Yep.
but we're trying to do our best to keep costs down by baking and doing a lot of stuff in the center.
So financial challenges are a constant. I
Yeah.
mean, that's not unusual for not-for-profit organizations.
Yeah.
And from a board perspective, do you have a full complement of board members that are hardworking volunteers, or is it a working board? Is it an advisory board?
It's very much an advisory board. Courtney manages the day-to-day operation of the center wonderfully. We meet a couple times a year. She'll update us on the status of things. But right now we are small. There's only about 5 or 6 of us. And most of the community may be aware that there is a goal of the project with the Passamaquoddy Lodge to merge our facilities. And if that is given the green light to go ahead, we will be looking to increase our board membership just so that there's a bigger cohort of people that can help facilitate the implementation of that project.
I've heard about that project, and I think it's very exciting. I was recently involved in a multi-generational workshop through the library, and it was a huge success. So I think that the idea behind this incorporation is good. Would you like to just explain to our viewers a little bit what that would look like?
Sure. So I think before, the project came about because the Passamaquoddy Lodge, which is the senior assisted care, assisted living facility in town, needs to either renovate their existing building or build a new facility to meet current standards and codes. And when they've met with architects and engineers, they decided that it made a lot more sense to build a new facility than to replace what they already have. And doing that and looking at literature, best practices in kind of elderly care right now, it was identified that if we can bring the seniors facility as well as the early childhood education facility together under one roof, there are so many benefits to having the young and the old populations intermixed. And our building is also at the point where we either need to start investing in its maintenance and upkeep or look for an alternative.
Right. And so what are those advantages? I have ideas, but maybe not all of our viewers. So I think this is a great opportunity for our viewers to really understand that what specific benefits can be achieved.
So I think from looking at it from the seniors' perspective is that just being able to watch and see children play often brings so much joy to people. So if you can be sitting in your room and look out your window and see a yard full of children having fun, smiling, singing, it just helps improve their day-to-day quality of life. And from looking at it from the children's perspective, some children may not have close relationships with their grandparents, so they may not have fostered a relationship with an older person, and having the two populations so close together, and you can facilitate visits and programs, maybe you go into a sing-along or something.
It just enriches lives,
Yeah.
the connection.
Well, connections are a really basic, important human need. We all need to connect, and our connections strengthen and weaken depending on how that relationship goes. And so, in the curriculum that you teach, is that part of the sort of the understanding that a goal is to teach kids how to make healthy connections?
Absolutely, yeah. Relationships leads the way of what we do. It's building relationships and understanding not everybody's the same. We have older people, we have younger people, we have people with different abilities and disabilities, and just understanding that being compassionate for each other and understanding each other.
Kindness is an easy act to do.
Yeah.
When the idea of merging sort of well, actually, it started, I believe, with the idea of building a community that was senior friendly.
Right.
Because we wanted to have a senior friendly community. And I think out of that grew this idea of the importance and the benefits of multi-generational interaction, because it's not something that is, it's not as culturally done here. Maybe in the First Nations probably had much more of that than we did, simply because the way things are set up and the way our society is clearly not set up in a healthy way, or we wouldn't be having all the nonsense that we're having. How do you deal with differing cultures? Because as immigrants come into the town, there are different cultures that are going to be introduced for the first time to one another, and I think that that's a very exciting opportunity. Do they also feel that it's exciting, and do you, as an educator, see the challenges involved? I mean, or what those challenges might be?
It does. So what I started doing is I created a document that is called Connecting Families. And so every time we have a family come in, whether they're newcomers or not, they'll get this form where they can let us know the language they speak at home, a little about their family, what instruments they listen to or play, and music they listen to, so that we can incorporate that into our classrooms. Again, to just give the children a feeling of belonging and having them see themselves in their environment.
How old are the kids? What is the age range with your group of kids?
We've taken children as young as 6 months, right to 12.
12 years?
Yep.
So, so what is the demographic of that? Because obviously a 12-year-old's needs, I mean, and a 6-month-old's needs, you've got to
So we
deal
have different
with diapers
spaces for
and all
everybody.
that kind of thing.
Yep, they all have their own spaces. We did open up a satellite site to accommodate the growing need of the community. So they have their space there. There is a small after-school space at the center itself, but they are all separated.
And are there any immediate needs that say our viewers could help you with appropriately, that would like, oh, this would be such a help? You know, I know that there are, I know if it was Ministers Island, I'd say, well, this is what we could use. But how this isn't a time to be shy.
I would say we go through materials. The biggest thing that we go through and the children go through is materials. So any kind of donations like paint or crayons, markers, stuff like that.
So do you have a want list, for instance, on your website or on your Facebook page?
I am working on creating a list to put on our Facebook page so that the community can see and donate anything they might have to get rid of.
And it's called the Passamaquoddy Children's Center? Incorporated.
Yeah.
So that's what the Facebook page would. Because I think that that's where many people will go. Because a lot of people, I love going to lists and say, oh, I'll give you a box of Q-tips or whatever you need. But it's amazing the needs. And I know that in this climate, this financial climate, you could ask for the earth and you'd probably get a quarter of what you ask for, because everybody's being cut back. So if people wanted to get involved with the center, could they do that? Is there information on the Facebook page of how to do that?
Yeah, and they can always reach out to me within the office, and the board members, if they want to pitch in and do anything, we definitely will.
Because I know, for instance, someone was mentioning to me yesterday that they used to read to kids, and they miss reading to kids. Well, I've got another granddad who I'll send on.
We would love that. We would love that.
It is. It's not a skill that reading out loud isn't a skill that I ever learned. I just tell stories, but I know that it is something that people remember from their childhood as being a positive experience. And so is that something that, do you see the smiles light up on the kids' faces?
Definitely. Yeah, they love hearing their stories.
That's
and we have some great storytellers.
So as far as adding people to your board, what skill sets are you looking for? Specific skill sets, or are you looking for just people who are interested in the organization?
So I think at this point, just people with an interest in the organization and understanding what we do. But as we move forward, probably looking for people who have backgrounds in fundraising, because that's something we're going to probably have to start doing in the next couple of years to either stay at our own current facility or move to the new facility if that goes ahead.
Right. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that something like that is going to go ahead. But it's not unusual for not-for-profits to have to engage the public because the government just doesn't support these things. And it's actually, in a way, I think it's healthier because then you have a little bit more say, like, I've raised the money for this and we're going to have it.
Right.
And so I think that's important. What is sort of some of the highlights for you personally in being involved in early childhood education?
I really like the relationships I've built with the kids. It's really special going to work every day and everyone's yelling your name. You feel like a celebrity. And just knowing that they trust us and seeing the other educators with the children, and just really trying to understand who they are as people really makes me happy.
Do you take away anything from that interaction that you use in your own life with your own relationships, with your peers?
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's important, that the connection that you can make with people.
And and as a board member, does the connections do you feel the connections that the teachers are creating within each other and with the students?
Yes.
And so it makes it easy to kind of support them?
Yep, 100%.
So
Yeah.
what we also do is when your child is a part of our classroom, we have groups where the educators will post little stories and documentation on learning, what they're learning, what they're interested in, how we've worked through issues, stuff like that. So we share a lot with our parents.
Yeah. And I've seen sorry to jump in.
ahead.
I've seen educators who might not have a child in their day-to-day group that they're with, but they still have formed these really tight connections or little bonds with them, and I think that's so amazing. My daughter loves Barbies. And there's an educator at the center who also loves Barbies, and she's not in Penny's classroom on a regular basis, but I'll see them on the school or in the yard talking about Barbies, or they're planning to wear their Barbie shirts, and that cute little connection is just so much more meaningful than I think people might realize on the surface, because Penny comes home and talks about Barbies and this educator, and her face lights up with joy that she has made that connection with someone who's not kind of in her peer group, but is that older person.
Yeah, I think that's one of the benefits of children getting together as a group, because they learn so much from one another, and with your guidance they can learn how to interact more appropriately than they may. So we just have a minute or so left. What would you like the viewers to take away primarily as like a couple of takeaways from your needs, your wants, your joyous moments?
Well, I really have to shine the light on the educators. They're wonderful. They are a great group of girls. They do so much for the kids. They do training. They have taken courses. They've invested their lives and committed to taking the certificates and the diplomas.
Yep.
And kudos to them, 100%.
Well, then we'll congratulate them on their New Brunswick Early Childhood Educators Week. So congratulations, and thank you both for coming to the show today and sharing your viewpoints and letting our audience really understand the center much better. You certainly have made it easier for me to understand it. And thank you for watching the show today, and I look forward to seeing you again on another episode of Fundy Tidings.